Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. Welcome to tonight's healing session, right? We're going back to revitalizing the chakras. We have unfinished business here. We are going to go ahead and take a look at the next chakra, which is we ended on the heart chakra. The next one is the throat chakra. We are going to go ahead and finish this healing journey with the revitalizing the chakra. I think it's been long enough. It is time to go ahead and get everything that we can out of this path that we've chosen to start on. It's very important to finish things. That's something that I'm working on now, is making sure that I finish things and not just leave them open-ended. This is one of them that I have committed to. As we go ahead and delve in, we're looking at the throat chakra, the healing of the throat chakra. Okay. Something's got me so excited, baby. You got me shook up on your love. So today we are healing the throat chakra. And so before we get started, I just want to take a moment to woosah, if that's okay. Today was a beautiful day. Very calm, quiet, peaceful day. Let's allow all of your members in your body to relax and call in peace, call in joy, and support wherever you need it. All right, so as we get started on our lesson around the throat chakra, I just want to say thank you. If you're someone that has been following the journey from the very beginning, as you know, we've worked our way down from the root all the way up, and we're going all the way up to the 7th basic chakra. And so thank you. If you have followed along here and you've gotten something out of this, I appreciate the energy that you've added to this whole healing journey that we are on. And so as we delve into the throat chakra, this is a very exciting energy center, because I feel like it may be one of the most underestimated and the most overlooked. There's so much here with the throat chakra, and we're just going to tap in today. But before we get started, you know, I always like to tell you that if you're looking to get this book, you can actually purchase it online. I've had people to actually purchase it online. I didn't know you could get it online, but apparently you can. Revitalizing the Chakras by Kajara Nebteth. Okay. And so let's go ahead and jump in. As we start here, the affirmation around the throat chakra is one that says, I speak every desire, right? I speak everything I desire into existence, is what it says. And my words are powerful. They're full of power. And another name for the throat chakra in the ancient Kemetic language is Sekhem. It's the Sekhem center. And so when we look at the throat chakra, we're looking at the part of our energy system that governs our ability to express ourselves clearly, not only outwardly, but also to pull in information. This is the part of our body that governs our ability to listen attentively to others. And this part of our energy system is closely linked to our communication skills, basically, is what we're talking about. And this energy center typically becomes empowered between the ages of 28 to 35. So you be up there by the time this center actually comes online and, you know, becomes empowered. That's interesting. 28 to 35. And when we do end up mastering communication, this is where we learn how to speak up for ourselves with honesty and with a sense of compassion as well. The lessons around the throat chakra really are about teaching us how to express our emotions through truth and with clarity. When we suppress this part of our energy system in terms of feelings or avoiding speaking out, speaking our truth, what happens is we end up blocking this energy center, which can also lead into a whole bunch of other things. One of which would be negatively impacting our overall energy, right? Which can also lead to challenges within our connections and our relationships. And equally as important is learning how to listen, right? So conversations don't end up being one-sided, right? But it's actually a balanced interaction that's happening in the conversation. This is known in ancient Kemetic tradition as the Sekhem. I almost said Sekhmet. That's not what I meant to say, even though she's all right with me. This is the Sekhem, which means power, right? We speak with power. Our words are full of power. And in the ancient Kemetic tradition, this was a reminder that our words carry weight, that they carry intense power. That may be one of the first lessons that we learn about the throat chakra. And so, as you know, I have a beautiful opportunity and a time to like kind of soak. And all of this past week, I knew I was going to go ahead and open up to start on the throat chakra. So during my meditation, I have been inviting in balance for this part of my energy system. And so I've incorporated the throat chakra in my meditations over the past week as I prepared for this. Also, as you know, we also go into discussion around it. There's some journal work inside of the book that is very useful in the healing process. And Kajara suggests that we do like one question a day, just to give yourself time to chew and to marinate on the questions and answer them truthfully. Because we are talking about truth, right? We're talking about communicating honestly. And so that was one of the things that was very important about this, is giving it time and space. And so the first question that Kajara has proposed for this healing session was, am I honest with myself and others? And am I speaking my truth? Were the questions that I choose to answer. This is the first one. And so as I thought about this, I just began to write. This was kind of easy. It just flowed. But I've spent, years, and I'm gonna just really be honest and I'm gonna be transparent. I have spent years, you hear me? Years gaslighting myself about my worth. Now I've stepped into honesty around that. Mm-hmm. And I had to do that first with myself to answer this question. Like I have to step into honesty with myself first. And then once I got honest with myself, then I was able to open up and like really be honest with others. I would say that shift wasn't easy, but it was necessary. And what that meant, that meant learning to be present, learning to be assertive, asserting my authority and my sovereignty. It meant learning discernment, right? We'll talk about that a little bit later. It meant doing all of those things without judgment of myself or of others. It meant facing, how people respond to my truth when I decide to really get honest with myself and others. And it's not always pretty. Sometimes people respond with gratitude, thankful for your transparency and your openness to share. Sometimes it's with subtle digs and, the undertone, of not really being in agreement with what you're doing. Sometimes it is seen with snug remarks and comments, on the back end, which is okay. And I've learned to receive all of that with grace, because every reaction teaches me something about myself and about others, but mostly it's about us, right? Speaking my truth became really important. It became so important. This is actually why I started this YouTube station and dedicated it to speaking truth. It actually started out as Letty Speaks, and it's kind of evolved into something else, as I'm moving along my path and my journey. But it's through this channel that I've been able to see the power of words in action, because I have shared my own stories of triumph and failure and challenge and resilience. I've shared moments where I overcame things like doubt and fear, and I've shared those stories and I've used them as inspiration for others to maybe inspire them to confront their own limiting beliefs. I've used this channel to create affirmations. I've used it to create spoken word pieces that people have responded to very beautifully and said that has touched a part of them, and given them a level of confidence in many ways and sometimes peace. But I've talked about the power of intentional words, using language, and how the words we choose can actually manifest goals and shift mindsets, starting with ours. I've also watched response to some of the things that I share. I do have viewers that will respond every now and then, and some of the responses are encouraging. But when it comes to speaking truth, speaking words, I've offered, you guys know that I do tarot, and my whole thing around tarot is to be of assistance in a way that is fun, but also a way that challenges some of the modern day ways that we get information and get inspiration. I choose a different way to do that. And so tarot for me is a way for me to challenge my own limiting beliefs and my own boundaries and my own mindsets. I enjoy it. And so you guys know that I've offered like practical advice, and it's always rooted around self-worth and boundaries. And it's beautiful when you hear people say how they're inspired, or how your stories or your words gave them courage to say the thing that they hadn't had courage to say before they listened to your message. It just reminds you of why you do this. And so for me, I've learned that, words are powerful. They're full of power. They have the ability to awaken, to comfort. They have the ability to, empower us while it's comforting at the same time. But they can, in fact, create change. I am living witness of that. And not just in my world when I speak. My words can create change in the world around me as well. And that's what I'm committed to. I'm committed to using my voice to make positive change or positive impact, one truth at a time. And let me just say, and I know somebody's thinking right now, well, I've heard you say such and such, and that wasn't very positive. Truth is not always comfortable. It's not always digestible, right? It's not always palatable, but it's about the intention, I believe. And so my answer to Kajara's first question is, I have given a lot of thought to words and how they're used and how I use them. And I have also taken great strides to really be honest with myself, to the point where it hurts, and to be open with others. No longer do I feel the need to hide. What are we hiding from? Ourselves, right? We are all on this journey, and we're learning day by day. Nobody knows it all. Nobody has experienced it all. Some of us are just taking it like literally day by day and seeing, how things turn out. And so I think I have become more honest than I've ever been with myself and with others. Yes, I am speaking my truth. I am, with all that's within me. I'm committed to that. That's how I answered that. This was very inspirational, as it gave me a chance to really think of ways that I have become very open and transparent and honest, and has given me an opportunity to really see myself for real. No filter, no sugarcoating, just for what I am, the good, the bad, the ugly, the inspirational, all of that. And, there's nothing more empowering than accepting yourself just as you are. There's like a little unexpected gift that comes with this particular energy center. Truth opens up the access to that gift. The second question that I was able to take a look at was, first of all, she made the comment before even reading the question: be truthful, be true to yourself and honest with yourself with these answers. Do I communicate well with others? Why or why not? Do I speak when I need to? And am I quiet when I need to be? Listen, here's the thing. So I've realized that our communication styles often start somewhere, right? Usually it's going to stem from our upbringing. And looking back, I see the value that can be brought by unlearning certain habits and by being open to relearn new ways of being. We're talking about communication. So, new ways of communicating that will be more beneficial and serve us more when it comes to growth. Okay. And I feel like for all of us, this is a choice. It's a conscious choice because we could very well stay right where we are, stay really comfortable in whatever is not working. But then there's also the choice to say, you know what, I want to experience something different. I realize that I've benefited personally from being open to this process of being willing to admit what's not working and being open to see a different way or to allow myself to experience something different. Sometimes it does involve unlearning so that you can make room to relearn. Specifically in this case, unlearning the communication patterns that I've been shown, right? That doesn't work. Now, I'll admit that I'm still a work in process. Listen, I got a long way to go, especially when it comes to communication with others. I have a long way to go. Many of my challenges come from, as I just stated, learned behavior and coping mechanisms that's been shaped by, different life experiences. So, yeah, I'm actively working on improving how I communicate while also learning to be present during the communication, right? Being conscious and open and present, because sometimes you can be talking to a wall and be surrounded by a room full of people, but nobody's listening. Everybody's in their phone or planning what they're having for dinner or planning what they're going to do on the weekend. But to be present during communication is a whole nother level of communication, to be present and attentive and engaging in conversations, right? Communication it's a two-way street, right? It's not just about you being able to express yourself, but at the same time, communication is actually a skill, right? It's a two-way street, not just about expressing how we feel, but also it's about receiving information. This energy center right here. It's not about just talking. It's also about pulling in information and discerning the content of the information that you're pulling in so that you can really understand what's being said so that you can actually engage with it. When I go deeper, when we look at communication, it's not just practical either. Communication is energetic at its best, right? You can be, next to someone and you don't even have to say a word and be communicating with them energetically. You can be states away from somebody and be communicating up and down. Nevertheless, communication is not just practical, it's actually energetic. This little throat center right here, this energy center right here, for example, this allows us to tap into the intentions behind words. This is the energy center that gives us that special, what do we call it? Je ne sais quoi, right? That special something. And when we start healing this area, often what happens is we begin to reveal certain gifts. When we start healing in general, right? I always say that. I'm like, whenever I'm reading, it always comes up not to be afraid to go into the dark spaces, right? Sometimes we're afraid to heal because we're afraid to open up that can of worms. We don't know what's going to come out. But many times what we find is once we get past the ugly parts that needs healing, underneath that is this beautiful diamond that's been waiting for you to heal so that this could come up and be used, right? So as soon as we start healing this area, it often reveals hidden gifts that actually pop up and emerge during this process. And for me, that means learning the right time to speak, when to not speak, when to be quiet, and finding the balance between the two. I've actually swung between both of the pendulums. Like I've been really expressive, like very, dogmatically expressive, right? I've also been very passive where I may not speak at all. But it's not about either one of those extremes, but it's about finding that balance in the middle. And that comes through discernment, knowing when, right? Having that gut instinct or that energetic, whatever happens here, that tells us that the time is right. Go ahead and speak that message, or go ahead and tell that person what you've been wanting to say, but it just wasn't quite the right time. There's something that happens that says, go. That's discernment, right? Or there's something that says, we're not doing that. That tells you to shut it down, right? That's discernment. There's a balance between the two, right? And so I guess I acknowledge, that I am still evolving. I have lots of work to do in this area when it comes to communicating, but I'm definitely working on my throat center. As hard as I'm working on this heart center, when it comes to my communication and my ability to listen deeply, I think I have really honed in on it so much, and it's become something that is this beautiful unfolding. Again, going back to why I created this channel is for me to be able to release, right? Because again, when we don't allow ourselves to speak our truth, there's something that gets blocked. For those of you that understand how energy works, right? There's something that gets blocked, and that can turn into many different things, even practical things, right? I won't go into detail about that, but just understand the importance of speaking, the importance of finding an outlet to speak. That's probably why some people also find a lot of benefit when it comes to going to counseling. It's not like you're going to get answers, because only you have the answers, but it's more about the outlet, being able to talk to someone that's unbiased, that's not going to try to, tell you what to do, or they're not going to take sides. They're just there to listen. As you release and heal this heart center by allowing yourself to release. Going back to why I started the channel, that's one of the beautiful things, because there's a lot of practicality that I'm working on with communication as well. And you guys know I do the readings, which allows me to speak through my readings as well. But I also do what I call conscious convos. And these actually give me an opportunity to tap in a different way, not just with myself, coming from my perspective, but then I get to engage. And I'm not really a person that is really outgoing. And so I have to be creative and create my own opportunities and ways to hone in on these skills that I need. Because as I say all the time, you can't grow on an island. This is one way that I've been able to be creative and tap into those things and stimulate some of the activity that will lead to healing for my energetic body. I'm just asking. Y'all already know I'm a work in progress when it comes to this throat chakra. So I ask Spirit to send me strength, Spirit, as I continue this journey with this throat chakra. But I will say that I try to communicate well with others. I'm a work in progress. And I think it's because I tapped in late. I was preoccupied with other things. And this is a healing that absolutely needed to happen. And I'm so thankful that things were positioned and arranged for me to tap in and realize these things about myself. Because had I not taken the path that I'm on, I don't think that I would be here. I don't think that I would be really passionate about my healing and about myself, right? When we say, God, don't play about me, that's how you need to be about yourself. You need to not play about you, right? And so that's where I am now. And I think I am appreciative of the place where I am on my journey and the choices that I've made and the directions that I've taken, because I was in a whole completely different mindset even 5-6 years ago. And it's just amazing. It's amazing the amount of growth that I've experienced. It's amazing the amount of healing that I've experienced, the amount of evolution that I have experienced over just the past few years. Amazing, amazing. I wouldn't trade it for anything. I think that I've learned a lot around communication. And yes, I'm learning discernment most of all. We need it. We cannot make it without discernment. Moving on to the next question for the throat chakra exercises. Again, Kajara wanted us to take a little time to clear our Sekhem center and just allow ourselves to just stop right here before answering the next question. So the question was, do I think, speak, and act with love, kindness, and compassion to myself and others? And if not, why? Why not? Or why do I? I took a moment before answering this question, and I really do. I feel like I'm in a place where I've begun to prioritize speaking, not just as a form of simply being kind or loving or simply being compassionate. I think that I have prioritized speaking with intention, right? There's something about words that has been so very important for me over like this last little less than a decade, a little less than the last 10 years. Words have become so important, which just clarifies this message even the more. As we were talking about, the affirmation says that my words are powerful. That has been like at the center of my experience, even as I've been healing and growing and challenging myself to get out of old mindsets and to get out of my own way and get out of these restrictions I placed on myself or allowed others to place on me, right? My communication is no longer based around anything other than intention. That doesn't mean, however, that I disregard those qualities. You know, those are beautiful things. Kindness, love, compassion. So much so, I don't even feel like I need to try to do those things. Those things they come natural to me. I've always needed work on the opposite side of that. Like my love is overflowing. My kindness and my compassion is out the doors through the roof. It was the boundaries that I needed. And so when I speak, I value these qualities. But for me, intention is the driving force behind what I choose to say. Behind everything, intention is huge. This is why I feel that way. I come from a background that, is one of people pleasing and strict church etiquette. Okay. Sometimes that can be challenging. At least it was for me. And it often led to a place of one where you can often forget your worth. You can often forget your worth when you're a people pleaser and you are connected with a system that is constructed for something other than self-empowerment. And I'm going to say that nicely. I'm going to say that kindly. I was often led to a place where I forgot my worth. I forgot, or I never learned it really to a point where it became a solid part of who I am. We're talking about putting ourselves in compromising positions. Sometimes it led to that and a lack of being able to see myself as the, something or someone that should be at the forefront of my life. It even led to situations of becoming overly forgiving and accepting of things that we shouldn't tolerate, like bad behavior, mistreatment, inconsideration. What else? Yeah, I'm gonna even say it, right? Because we don't like to talk about things that are wrong in the church. But sometimes you get bullying in the church. Sometimes we have the mafia in the church. Listen, all of that stuff. But that coupled with people pleasing it's a terrible combination. I tolerated a lot of things that I no longer tolerate. Thankful for the healing. Listen, I tolerated a lot of things because of the background that I came from. Again, learning to be open to unlearn some things so that we can relearn. But that's what I mean by challenging. I hope I didn't go too far off of the path. But, speaking with love doesn't always mean being nice or being agreeable, right? It can mean being honest. Speaking with love, even more importantly, means being honest, because true love sometimes requires honesty because it helps others. It helps us, even being honest with ourselves, but it also helps others to experience the best that life has to offer. You can't have that without truth, without honesty. And I've learned that, one of the greatest forms of love is truth. I'd rather someone be so very honest with me rather than tell me what they think I want to hear, to puff up my ego or just to make me feel a certain way. That's not love. That's manipulation, is what that is. That's not love. While my communication may not always be comforting, and I've been told from everybody around the block that I have a harsh way of communicating. What I will say, though, is it's not always comfort inspired, right? It's not always comfortable. It may not always feel comfortable, but it's genuine and it's intentional. And for me, intention outweighs style. I don't know why that's coming up right now. My spirit wants me to speak that. Something about character is really who you are when no one else is looking. And in that same way, it's like we can speak a good game, we can talk really good, but it all boils down to intention. What is the intention behind what you're saying? And I think that really is one of the real reasons why Spirit has had me looking at words really intently, is because there's a lot of power there, right? Now, whether it was created, when we look at words, right, whether they were created to keep someone bound or whether they were created to liberate, right? It all goes back to intention, which is why it does someone well to find out about what it is that they're saying, what it is that they're speaking. Intention outweighs style. Okay. Style is just the outer form, right? But what is at the heart of the matter? That's what matters. It's all about speaking with purpose, right? And listen, I am a work in progress. I'm going to keep working on the rest, okay? I promise you that. There were other questions here that were proposed. I only did 3 to share with you. The others I won't share. Again, take some time to clear the second center. And then she also asks, how do I speak to myself? Am I being too critical of myself or others, right? That's something to think about as well. How do we speak to ourselves? Are we critical with ourselves? Do we dislike ourselves? Because that reflects in how we interact and treat others. I feel like love starts at home. And if you want to try to be more kind with others, try being more kind to yourself, because it's going to start there. If you have a hard time treating yourself well, I have to say, you treating others well it's a facade. It's a put on. If you have a difficult time being really good to yourself, but you're good to everybody else, that's not real. And I'm speaking out of experience, right? You can be the most loved person because you've done so much for everybody. And you could be dying inside every time you go home, regretting, second guessing, overdoing, just giving so much without receiving back. How we speak to ourselves is really the root, it's the core of where this healing begins, where this good communication and good relating, interacting with others, it begins with self. And so if you find that you're nicer to others than you are with yourself, there's something amiss there, because you should be better to yourself than you are with others, because that is where the overflow is coming from. Where is all that coming from if you don't even have it to give to yourself? That's what I would ask. I didn't want to share this question, but that's just a little bit something of the thoughts And then the last question, again, take a moment to clear your second center and answer these questions. For the throat chakra, do I listen and hear when others speak to me? Do I close my ears to truth? Are we resistant to truth? Now, this one was a little bit complicated because the word truth is, it depends on who you're talking to, right? And it really depends on, and I think this is where this really is hitting home for me and for a lot of us, because truth may be seen from the eyes of the viewer, right? Truth is going to be dependent upon how you were raised, who you were raised by, what your experiences were, what your choice. There's so many different things that cause us to have different experiences and opinions about life and what it has been. And depending on your value system, that's another big one. That's going to determine whether or not you're able to sit and listen to someone else speak. But a healthy throat chakra is one where you can interact with others, where you can listen. One of my goals is to get here, to be able to sit and listen to people and be present in the conversation, right? And be discerning in the conversation, like taking in information, not just giving, not just talking and doing all the talking because you feel like you know everything. Even the most experienced person has something to teach us. But one where you can sit and be discerning, one where you can sit and be present, right? One where you can sit and benefit from speaking with someone where you may not have anything in common with. But to be healed means that you can sit and you can interact and communicate in a way without judgment, where you walk away having just had a very valuable exchange, whether you agree with it or not. I don't think we're there as a whole yet. That's for each of us to work on, because sometimes our truth demands that we debunk other people's truth, or else it would not seem to us as is the truth, right? And sometimes it goes into very deep belief systems when we start talking about closing our ears to truth. It's going to be, depending on the person, from the eyes that is viewing that truth, right? But to be able to sit and enjoy an interaction without having to put all of these restrictions and limits on them, that's what we're talking about. Healing and being able to listen and understand, not just listen to respond, but listening in a way that's going to allow you to become a little bit closer to someone else, right? Intimacy is not just sexual, but it's also being able to sit down with someone and exchange ideas and walk away feeling like you just connected with this person on a deeper level than you've ever connected with anybody else before. It's that kind of stuff. Deep healing, right? And it's not just about talking. We've been talking a lot about speaking. This is the second energy center. The first one is the sacral chakra. This is where it is created, and this is where it comes to life, and then it gets up here and gets released, right? But it's also about inputting too, receiving, whether you take it home and utilize it or whether you just say, oh, that was nice, thank you for sharing that, and you can give it back. But being able to receive it, do you close your ear to certain truth? There may be some healing that's needed with the throat chakra. And oh, that is crazy, because then that taps us into, I guess it makes sense. Then that taps us into deeper levels of our experience that shapes our belief systems. Like, this thing goes deep. Do I listen and hear when others speak to me? Do I close my ears to truth? And so, yeah, these are excellent questions to divulge, to get in and unpack and see like what comes out. I don't think and I don't know, I don't want to speak for her intentions, but when we look at things and opportunities to grow, right? And people create material like this, it's not really the material that is important, right? It's not the questions per se, but what comes up when we ask these questions, right? That's really what it's about. It's about creating an environment that's conducive for healing by way of making you open up to yourself. It's not even really the questions. It's just the fact that you're having this conversation with yourself, right? And through that conversation, you're opening up in ways that you normally wouldn't. You are seeing and understanding yourself in ways that you normally wouldn't, because you wouldn't even explore like any of these deep inner questions, right? Therefore, pointing out possible places where you can see you might need healing, you might need to work on that. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And so I love it. If you want to use these questions to take it a little bit further, or if you want to put a comment, maybe something came up during this conversation and you want to ask it, ask it. Send me an email if you don't want to put it in the comment. I will respond, because I think this is beautiful. And even if you have not followed this per se, hopefully if you've been encouraged you, even if you don't go by way of the CHAKRAS, right? Even if it's something else, like a 30-day fasting journal to get closer to God, I don't care what it is. It's just a tool that brings us all to the same place, right? Oneness with our Creator and oneness with ourselves. I enjoyed this one. This is, I think, one of the Chakra energy center that is way underestimated and way overlooked. Just that part about being discerning and being able to actually see somebody's intentions, that comes from this energy center being healed. And that's nothing. This is just tapping on the surface of what we're talking about here. Like, if you really got serious about this and wanted to dig deeper, like, be my guest. Come back and share with me what you found. But this is just like tapping on the surface. There's so much more beneath. But it's supposed to be something that would, stimulate interest, that would stimulate, healing, or some form of opening up within yourself to have these conversations. And it starts with self, right? That was the throat chakra. I really enjoyed this one. This one was, without being too emotionally stimulating, it was deep. It was deep. I speak every desire into existence. My words are powerful, right? I don't know why I'm seeing somebody with like lots of little stickies posted up around. That is amazing. I used to do that. I got to the place where like I needed that kind of encouragement. And yes, I did. I had stickies all up around my bed, like on my mirror when I went to the bathroom. Like, I needed to see words of encouragement to keep my mind lifted, right? And so that worked for me. I'm seeing that for somebody. That's beautiful. And I would encourage you to not only just read them, but speak them. Whatever you have up for encouragement around your house. I'm seeing somebody got like a lot of little stickies everywhere. Make sure you are speaking and uttering them out of your mouth. We speak life to power through our words. And so that's going to take it to a whole nother level when you release that out into the atmosphere. And you will be calling back a response to those words. Trust me, it works for whoever that's for. That is our lesson around the throat chakra, the Sekhem Center. I hope you enjoyed this. I'm going to end it here. We've been on a good hour. Let me know what you think. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Maybe somebody needs to see this. You never know. All right. I'll see you guys on the next one. I will be back very soon. Blood Moon Oracle, Leticia is my name. Till next time.